Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the information session for July the 11th. At this time, I'm going to ask Vice Chairman Sankey to lead us in a word of prayer.
Good morning to each of you. Would you please join me in prayer? Father God, we come before you today to say thank you for grace and your mercies. We know that your mercies are new every day, and we just are so grateful and appreciative that you have not forgotten about us, that you still look down upon us, Father God, and we are just a little lower than the angels, and that's a good place to be. And so we just invite you in now to rest, rule, and abide with us as we move forth with the making of decisions to impact the way of life here in this county. We ask that you would be with us always in each and everything that we do, and that everything we do here, Lord God, will be, everything that is said will be pleasing in your sight, and everything that we do would be for the betterment of the people, Lord God. We thank you now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Good morning. We will hear today from the Sheriff's Office, from Grants Administrator Regina Walker, County Engineer George Speake, Chief Revenue Clerk Allison Holland, Attorney Terry Reynolds with Levitate Legal and Consulting is here to discuss our ARPA programs. Director of Development Felicia Petway with Legal Services of Alabama, and Sharice Stokes with Tech MGM is also going to be here. We will go over the items to be considered during the formal session. Consider an interagency cooperative agreement with the Alabama Department of Environmental Management regarding a grant for remediation of solid waste along the right-of-way in Montgomery County. A resolution to approve the critical home repair program from the Montgomery Thrive Initiative. Consider the appointment of Jason Broadway as a board member of the Pine Level Water Authority. Consider the 2023-2024 Annual Community Corrections Plan. Consider miscellaneous appropriations to agencies. Consider miscellaneous appropriations for education. Consider miscellaneous appropriations from designated revenue.
I have one on that, Florence, please. $750 to the 3 Point Neighborhood Association.
To the, I'm sorry.
3 Point Neighborhood Association.
Okay.
If you're out there and please mute your phone if you're called in or something.
Okay, so once again, it's the Auburn Voter Referee. So it is still set for a deposition.
You may learn something here. He shut up then, didn't it? Cut off? Yeah. Are you through with Vice Chair?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
There's a couple that we need to consider for the joint. One is Reggie Barlow Skills Camp that is coming up August the 5th, that was presented to us at the last meeting. I believe Commissioner Harris had or somebody had mentioned maybe $5,000 from the joint. Is there any objection to that?
Yeah, I think the request was 5,000. I subsequently got it. Did you get a copy of that budget?
I got a budget from James Williams. Is James in here?
Who's picking up the rest of that?
It's Reggie Barlow.
He's picking that up?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about that. He's putting his time in his name. That's for our kids.
Do you want to go call him out?
That's what I was thinking. I mean, we could, at the very least, we could do a sponsor to for our kids. He's lending his name and,
Can we do 5,000 from joint and then individual commissioners can kick in additional monies? We oftentimes do that.
I don't have a problem with that, but,
And we could also look at maybe as he finalizes his budget, if it's a little bit more, we're gonna meet again next week. We could make up the difference. Do 5 today and then let him finalize his budget with the number of kids. 'Cause I know the number of kids keep going up. I think it's about 120 now. So we'll know more probably next week, if you want to do 5 today, and then we can always come back when we meet next week and just adjust it that way. Is that okay, Commissioner Harris?
It's fine with me.
Okay.
Obviously, everybody's not on board on it, so, yeah, we'll do it that way.
Let's do it that
Like I
way.
said, he's in southwest Montgomery, southeast Montgomery this time. And he's gonna get, you said 120 kids. We might want to have him come back and do the city, do it in the city somewhere. My district is in, the top district is in the city. We don't have anything out that way. I'd like to see something done out that way, but
And I think as James said last time, there's transportation designated to go out to pick up at different sites.
So with that being said, we may
James.
need to give him more money. If,
Come
I agree with you on that one. We may
Okay,
need to give him more money.
let's let James, he's here. James, we're talking about the Reggie Barlow camp.
Yeah.
We were talking about doing 5,000 from the joint. Commissioner
Okay.
Harris' concern was he didn't want Reggie to do the camp and then
Right.
cost him out of his pocket
Right.
in addition to that. So the question was, if the camp is more than 5,000, who is going to pick up, how is that being funded?
Reggie himself will have, he's gonna pick up
He'll
the,
pick it up.
correct.
So do you know where we at now as far as the actual cost? You told me yesterday it was 100 and 120 kids from all
Yeah,
over
we-
the city. You're busting them out there, the
Well-
opportunities.
Yeah, we actually held back 50 slots, reserve slots, just to make sure that our county kids, but we're gonna be at 125 kids, yeah.
Pull the mic up,
but
James.
we're not talking about a whole lot of money. I think
Yeah.
it's, $18,000?
The
total
total
budget-
will be about right at 10, a little, was it 10.5?
I mean, we're not talking about a whole lot of money, y'all.
And that's,
Right.
you know, for staff, their travel, hotel, and Ms. Taylor, he has doing all the marketing.
For some reason, 18 sticks in my head. But it wasn't a whole lot of money,
No.
and, you know, I mean, I know he doesn't mind doing it. He's not asking for this. This is just something I thought. And if we, however we want to
What
handle
was
it,
that budget, James? the
Fine,
total
I
amount for the
can-
budget that you sent me. You sent me a budget.
Right.
I'm looking for it now.
It was like,
The total amount, I think, is right at about 10,500, and that's everything. That's with accommodating with the hotel, the travel, the NFL special guests. I think what I had requested earlier was around 5,000, and that's just to cover the camp T-shirts, swag bag, the equipment, and signage, things like that. But yeah, the total cost is a little over 10,000.
Let's go with you, Doug, what your suggestion?
just do 5 today. I'm gonna talk to Reggie. I'll call him this afternoon and find out exactly what it's going to end up costing him. And then we'll meet again next week. We can address it again next week.
Oh, okay.
Is that fine? So Florence, 5,000 today from the joint. The second one that is kind of an annual thing is the Montgomery Ballet. They do the Beauty and the Beasts, and they do the thing at the zoo, performance at the zoo. In the past, we have given them $5,000 whenever they have had the performances, and that has come from the joint. Is there any objection to doing that one again, 5,000 from the joint? So Florence, you add that one, please. And I think that's all I've got.
Doug, I have one that come to mind, and I don't know if we did anything about it, if I did anything, or Isaiah did anything. The peers group, the veterans group, that 3 or 4 years ago, we helped to purchase, or actually purchased a van for them. And they about worn that van out. I think the transmission's out on that van. And
Yeah,
they-
it's sitting at the shop now, waiting on transmission to be
And-
put in.
And they're trying to get that, done, and ask for some help. I had intended to do it. I don't know,
I went ahead and gave him money.
they got it.
I did. I sent some money from mine.
Was it enough for him? Was it
It
with them?
wasn't, no, he still is missing, he still needs money. I think he said another about 33,000.
33.
No,
No, 3,000, not 33.
Let me find that.
I think Marche did 25 and I did, so yeah.
Yeah, I think some came from Marche.
Marche did some money, I did some, and someone else didn't, Sankey did.
Well,
Sankey, you sent some money.
I've sent some on 2 or 3
Me
occasions.
too, I have too,
to
but
be
I think
honest
you
with
said
you.
you sent some this
Yeah,
time.
they're doing a great job
Okay,
serving
well,
veterans.
That's Fred and Williams who sent it.
Yeah,
I
well,
believe they
Fred-
need an
Fred,
additional.
is Fred here?
No, he's not.
Fred, if you're listening, text me and let me know if you got what you needed to get that van out of the shop before the meeting's over. But I just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that they got it repaired.
Dan, I'm looking at now, he's, the grand total, for the service is right at $5,000. And then, well, the grand total is $53.53. And I think he got $2,500 from the city. Carmen, you remember what you gave?
I think I sent, cause I'd already sent him 1,000, so I sent 500.
So you said 1,500, you think?
Mm-hmm.
So that means he's probably about $1,300 shy of getting the money.
Lawrence, back up and do, and I want to, before we send a check, but I want to do the 1,500 to Piers for that,
From your joint.
for my
I mean,
designated. And make sure I haven't done that already.
Teresa's not here though, is she?
If I haven't done it, I'll do 1,500.
Anybody got anything else?
We'll consider consider a bid award to Holly Henley Builders for Phase 2 renovations of the Montgomery County Detention Facility. Consider budget change request number 3 for the County Commission. Consider budget change request number 3 for the Montgomery Humane Society. Consider reallocation of youth facility detention administrative support specialist position to an administrative assistant position for the youth facility detention. Consider a travel training request for the juvenile court. And that's all. We will hear from the sheriff's office. Several items. No, just one item.
Good morning. Sheriff Cunningham's not here today, so he's out of town, had a prior engagement, so I'll speak on his behalf.
And the item number 1 is the Auburn Game Day Professional Services Contract.
Yes, that's the annual contract that we
Yeah.
enter with the City of Auburn every year to provide them services for the football games.
Any questions about that? That'll be next agenda.
Is that all we got?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Simple. Thank
Appreciate it.
Regina Walker, items 2 and 3.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
I come before you this morning as a future agenda item for the FY 2024 Transportation Alternatives Grant. The project, the most shovel-ready project we're able to identify and on the needs list is a walking trail at Elton N. Dean Park. Commissioner Moore Ziegler had asked us to look into some funding for that project and to increase the usability of it, and I'll defer to her.
Yes, thank you for that, Regina. We went out there to Elton Dean Park recently, and James Williams and myself, and we were looking at the walk. You know, right now it's a little gravel. When it rains, it's slippery. So for the quality of life for the people that walk out there every day, we would like to maybe make that more of a concrete, so it won't be slippery for people, so that we won't have accidents, and it'll be better for people that want to walk during the daytime or night out there at Elton Dean Park. Elton Dean Park is a county park. It is a beautiful park, and we want to make sure that we keep our county parks beautiful. And I think we are one on only maybe, how many parks do we have, James?
8.
How many county parks do we have? 11, yeah. So I think it's, but it's by far one of the largest ones that we have. And we want to keep that park, and actually we want to grow that park. So I thank you, Regina, for looking for this and future things that we can do at Elton Dean Park.
James, is this something that's gonna have to be done down the road anyway, because Americans with Disabilities?
It will be, and the more traffic we're receiving and the more events that we do, it has to be, where everybody can participate.
Right.
So down the road, this is something that we're really gonna have to consider doing.
So the total grant is 200,000. Do we have the total dollar amount for the project itself?
We are still, this local tap was just released, so we're still gathering figures. The grant is 20% of the total project cost. So the maximum, we think, based on our figures from another, this project when it was presented before, was $355. So we're doing 20% of that, so it's about $71,000.
Who provided those figures, the estimated cost?
Core Engineering. And we would still have to bid it, but you have to have an estimate to be able to put together a budget for the grant.
And what's the match?
20% of the total project cost.
So it's 20,000 plus the difference between 200,000 and 355,000? That we, and my whole thing with this, going after grants without having a plan beforehand or having budgeted for it, is you create a budget item, you know, that might sound like a small figure, but when the actual time comes, it's a huge figure. And we really haven't anticipated it. That's the problem we need to work out when we're bringing these grants before the commission to be considered. We need to know that the financial end of it has been pre-considered, and we know it's going to be there, because right now, what we're doing is creating a budget item.
I have been assured, Commissioner,
Something that we hadn't planned.
I have been assured by the finance director that the match is available in fund balance. That is how I'm told that matches are.
It might be available.
Okay,
We might have $20,000, but somebody else might want to spend that $20,000 in another manner.
yes,
And
sir.
that's this commission's decision,
Yes, sir.
not the finance director's decision.
Anything else?
Any other questions, comments? We'll put that on the next agenda.
Thank you.
Regina, what about item number 3?
Captain Richardson's going to join me for this one. This is the annual FY 2023 Byrne JAG Memorial Grant. It's an allocation that we split 60-40 with the city, and Captain Richardson can tell you more about what we're planning, what the sheriff's office is planning to purchase. There is no match.
Good morning again. So the sheriff's office intends to purchase level 3 ballistic grade plate carriers for our deputies with this money.
What's a plate carrier?
So it is it's an overwear vest that goes over their soft body armor, but it carries ballistic plates that are capable of stopping rifle rounds.
So the ones that we recently purchased through ARPA, they won't stop rifle rounds, or I mean, I know they help, but they won't completely do that?
Yes, sir. This improves upon that without operational security, without going into too much detail. This actually provides a more capable product for our deputies.
Well, I'm all in favor of providing everything we can for them, so is there any other questions about this no match?
I'm in favor of grants when they have no impact or positive impact on the budget. And this one is going to be a positive.
Yes, sir.
So next agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Weston. Thank you, Regina.
You're welcome.
George Speake, please.
Good morning. It says future agenda item number 4 is a resolution for resurfacing Mount Zion Road from Gibson Paulk Road northward to Woodley Road. And it's a 2024 MPO project that we're hoping to get in the March 24 dot letting. But the state requires this resolution to get the project started.
And it's come from the gasoline tax
Yes, sir.
money? Okay.
And we'll have the match budgeted.
Any questions about that?
Not about that, but George, what's the status of Where's Ferry Road?
Kevin carried the MOU down to the city, and have you heard anything back from him, Kevin?
And you're still gonna let me know before they start work? Thank you.
Okay. The future agenda item number 5, that's a standard ALDOT agreement, funding agreement for resurfacing Old Pike Road from US 82 to Old Carter Hill. And it's set up for the August ALDOT letting, August 23 letting. And the total cost is around 1.7 million. The MPO funds is around 1.4 million. And our match is 351,000, which we have it budgeted in our budget.
And when would that work be done, George, you know?
Probably, let's see, August, probably September, October timeframe. Because
This year?
yes, sir.
Okay.
And we've got, so they have the letting, and it'll take about a month to get the paperwork done, and then whenever the contractor starts.
Yeah.
So probably September, be this fall sometime.
So, Ken, we already lowered the speed limit to 45 on that road, haven't we? Correct. Okay. In case people want to know, 'cause I get this question all the time, whenever we are paving it or have a paving project through ALDOT, they request 6 to 8 months ahead of time to lower the speed limits on these county roads, just so people get used to the speed limit being a little bit lower, and it's for the safety of the workers when they actually start the work. So we don't lower the speed limit the day we start the work, we lower it ahead of time to get people acclimated to the lower speed limit. And after we do the paving work, more than likely, unless something's different, we'll go back and change the speed limit back to what it was prior to the paving. So I get that question all the time. Anything else?
Let's see, future agenda item number 6.
That'd be next agenda too, Florence.
Number 6 is we had a traffic control tech 1 position filled, and the candidate selected, he's currently a County Road Equipment Operator 1 at pay grade S04, Step 2, and we have to get commission approval for him to move into this slot at his current pay on Step 2.
Yeah, there's
So
no-
it's a no cost, it's just a move, a lateral move,
No
basically.
financial impact on the county or anything, so.
Right.
Any questions? That'd be next agenda.
Okay, that's all we've got then.
Allison Holland, please. It's item number 7.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Come on, Alex.
This is just our annual report that we must have approved for the County Commission for the amounts that we were unable to collect for the 2012 property tax year. So those are due to errors, litigations, insolvents, or those we were unable to sell in the tax sale. And then the corresponding county resolution for the county amounts not collected. And so we ask for your approval on those for the next commission meeting.
Any questions? That'd be next agenda. Thanks,
Okay.
Alex.
Thank you.
Terry Reynolds is going to speak with us about ARPA items.
Good morning. I believe that we have a representative here this morning from Baptist to give an overview of their negative economic impacts from COVID and how they would utilize the proposed allocation to Baptist. So I'll pass it over to them.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I've had a wonderful opportunity to speak with at least a couple of y'all over the last few months, and we are most grateful for the opportunity to be considered for these ARPA funds. We've had a couple of different communications that have been shared with y'all over the past few months, but just kind of looking backwards, if you'll recall, on March 16th of 2020, Baptist Medical Center East received the first COVID patient in the state of Alabama. And immediately following that, Baptist partnered with both the county and the city in immediately setting up testing sites on Southern Boulevard, participating in the joint effort for mass vaccination shortly thereafter, and then ultimately developing the infusion therapy site as well. So we remained on the forefront of COVID diagnosis and treatment from the very, very beginning. But also, it's no secret that during that time, hospitals across the country saw their manpower costs increase exponentially over those 3 years, sometimes to the tune of a multiple of 5 or even 8 times what we would normally pay these clinical professionals. And during that time, all hospitals, including Baptists, began to see that the negative impact of maintaining what we considered to be unsustainable salary and wage rates for these travel, nursing, pharmacy, respiratory therapy, and other professional positions. Since that time, certainly, we've begun to recover from some of those rates, but it still persists. We're still using travel professionals on a pretty consistent basis, and my colleague, CEO Peter Selman, CEO of Baptist Medical Center East, is going to speak a little bit more to the operational efforts. But we're not just sitting around waiting either. It became apparent that we and our entire community has to work towards building the workforce of tomorrow. We don't have enough physicians, enough nurses, and enough other clinical professionals in this area to sustain the care that we can provide in a growing community. So Peter's going to talk to how we're going to be able to utilize the funds that have been considered for Baptists and how we can best serve our community by use of those funds. And let me ask, I believe that the information was emailed out to each of you yesterday, but I also have copies, so is it okay if I pass those out to you all?
Hand it to me, I'll pass it down. Come on, Peter, go ahead and start.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Peter Selman. I'm the CEO of Baptist Medical Center South, and thank you all for this opportunity today, and thank you for everything that you do for the citizens of Montgomery County. Really appreciate the partnership that we've had with you and the city and multiple agencies throughout the 2.5 years of the public health crisis caused by COVID. I think we all really rallied to serve the citizens of the whole region. I do want to spend a little bit of time today talking about collaborative effort, and we've worked very closely with our friends and colleagues at Jackson Hospital throughout the last 2.5-3 years too, sharing of resources and just rising to meet the needs of the community. And I think our stories are going to be very, very similar. So for us moving forward, the challenges during COVID were both clinical, financial, operational, and truly a public health emergency. And as Tommy mentioned, those challenges still persist. And the one thing that I think is the greatest challenge for hospital leaders throughout the state, really throughout the country, is the workforce crisis. And really every industry, every sector of America is feeling this right now. And certainly it is a very acute pain in the healthcare industry. So a shortage of physicians, nurses, pharmacists, therapists, technicians, and really non-clinical personnel as well. So we really appreciate your consideration of these fundings, and we will use those primarily to continue to be able to staff our hospitals at a level to get optimal outcomes for our patients and safe outcomes. But to use that money for the ongoing heightened acuity of the workforce crisis and to be able to pay wages to recruit and retain the best and brightest to our healthcare organization, in absent this funding, we will have to defer some of our capital projects. And a lot of those are just deferred maintenance of infrastructure, whether it's air handlers, chillers, electrical, plumbing. Those are the things that you have to do to just stay in business in any business. But particularly in terms of a return for the community, we'd like to put $2 million into renovations for the Montgomery Cancer Center, which is located on our Carmichael Road, but serves patients throughout the entire region and certainly every corner of Montgomery County. It is the largest and most comprehensive cancer center in Montgomery County. and for both the diagnosis and treatment of all types of cancers. So very quickly, I know we're short on time, but it's going to be a two-phase project. One will be a lobby and registration expansion and renovation. So we average between 250 and 300 patients a day. And almost all of those patients bring a loved one with them, someone that drove them there. It's usually more of an elderly patient with usually a daughter. Not always, but usually a daughter. Y'all step up more than us guys do to take care of our loved ones. And so we have between 500 and 600 people coming through our doors every day. And at peak times, that registration process can get really, really backed up. And so we have one registration desk, multiple associates there. What we'd like to do is kind of create more of a, kind of think of a Disney World sort of process where we have different lanes that people can go in. We'll have 6 different lanes really to streamline that whole process. But it's going to take a major renovation of our lobby. The
Peter,
second, yes, sir.
I'm going to cut you off a little
Yes.
early because of time, but I want to make sure if we have any questions.
Yep. Sure.
Is there any questions from the commission?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for coming, first of all. I'm a healthcare professional, so I can understand
Yes.
and appreciate the need for qualified professionals and the financial means of supporting delivery of healthcare. I was just curious, you mentioned the river region as your catchment area. How expansive is that area? And I'm concerned about other beneficiaries throughout the river region, and what are they doing to help you all meet the current needs that you have?
Yes, the vast majority of our patients do come from Montgomery County. The next concentric circle out would be the Tri-County area of Autauga and Elmore, but well over 65% of our patients come from Montgomery County. And then depending on the service, particularly since we're the only trauma center anywhere in central Alabama, so we probably pull from a 15-county region for that particular service. But most of our patients at the cancer center do come from Montgomery County.
And in terms of the CARES Act money, during the height of the pandemic, do you recall how much money that you all actually got from the federal government to help meet the financial needs?
Commissioner Sankey, I don't remember offhand, but certainly that was welcome news to hospitals across the country. When it was a declaration of emergency throughout the country, hospitals did, or really all providers, did receive enhanced reimbursement to offset some of the enhanced costs that we are experiencing. But since the ending of the emergency declaration, the expenses remain, but the enhanced payments have gone away.
And last question, please. In terms of the population that you serve outside of Montgomery County,
Yes.
are those governments helping in any way to defray the cost that Baptist system incur? And I know you all are pretty expansive because you all from Birmingham throughout.
Right.
Well, you've almost covered the entire state of Alabama, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm just curious as to, since you're so expansive, and I know other people are going to benefit from whatever renovations you're making. You talk about the cancer center, and I think it's only fair to ask if any other local governments are helping you to defray these costs.
We have not approached any other governments or municipalities except from Montgomery County and the city of Montgomery.
Sir, just to clarify, there is a Baptist health system in Birmingham, it's based out of Birmingham, but they have no connection to Baptist Health in Montgomery and Prattville. So we have the 3 hospitals, 2 in Montgomery and 1 in Prattville. They're not connected to any other Baptist organizations.
But aren't you the director of the entire system?
So I oversee the Baptist Healthcare Foundation.
Yes, sir.
Foundation.
Okay.
Yeah, I get that question a lot when I travel, because there's Baptist health systems in Dallas and Nashville. I mean, we're not affiliated with any of those, including not even Birmingham. I know it's a little bit confusing. So no, we are purely serving Central Alabama here.
Tommy, give us a quick update on the mobile unit. I know y'all had that.
I'm very glad you asked. If you recall, it's been a couple of years since we started to acquire that first mobile unit that would be primarily used for the diagnosis and general observational screenings that would travel not just in Montgomery but around the 12-county area. That's been a long process. I literally got an email this morning that said that they're in the final stages of production. But during about 6 months ago, if you will recall, we also filed by by receiving federal dollars, ARPA dollars, for a mobile mammography unit. We're expecting that to be boots on the ground in next month. Fingers crossed.
And you did get help from other counties for that.
We did get help from other counties for that first bus, and then, of course, the other was paid for by the ARPA dollars.
Any other questions? So they'll be on the next agenda. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I know that we're short on time, but I believe we have a representative from Jackson here as well.
Ben, when you get in front of the mic, identify yourself, your position with Jackson Hospital, so the people that are not in the room can hear you.
Sure. Can everybody hear me? Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be in front of you all today. Ben Wells, Chief Financial Officer at Jackson Hospital. We appreciate the time to be before you today. Much like our counterparts, Baptist Health, healthcare over the pandemic has been a challenge. I have the distinct privilege of being over the finances at Jackson Hospital. I think it's important for everybody to kind of understand what has transpired over the years. Pre-pandemic, the Alabama Hospital Association reported that over 70% of hospitals in Alabama operated in the red. That's negative margins. Alabama is one of the most challenging states for hospitals to operate in because of the reimbursement landscape. Fast forward to where we are today, we have gone through 4 progressive waves of the pandemic. What that has ushered in for us at a time when hospitals were already struggling financially, that has ushered in for us tremendous inflationary pressures, predominantly associated with labor, not just clinical staff, but staff across the board. Across the industry, reports are throughout the nation that operational expenses for hospitals have increased by over 20%. Our reimbursement is a little bit unique because we are at the mercy of our payers as far as dollars they're willing to attribute to us. So with operational expenses up 20%, we've seen reimbursements increase by about 5%. So as you can imagine, that math is very, very difficult. Our exclusive purpose at Jackson Hospital is to render care for the community. I think over the course of the pandemic, one thing that was evidently clear was regardless of your stature, regardless of who you were, regardless of your ability to pay, COVID was an equalizer for all of our patients. We took the approach, along with various other healthcare providers, that we were going to be there for the community we served, regardless of patients' ability to pay. So we are now operating in an environment in which it's difficult to retain staff due to the low reimbursement we have in this state, and we see more and more staff ultimately having the ability to work remotely. So to work in the healthcare environment, but maybe provide services for a state like California or New York, and then ultimately command a higher wage while living in our area. So inflationary pressures are tremendous. The ability to recruit and maintain physicians post-pandemic has become increasingly difficult. Clearly, you need healthcare professionals to render care for the community we serve, whether they're physicians, whether they're nurses, whether they are techs on patient units. So all that to say, the environment we operate in today is very, very challenging. Pre-pandemic, we were able to make a lot of investments into our aging infrastructure. That has all been, for all intents and purposes, put on hold. We are currently operating at a negative margin, spending about $2 million a month in premium nurse labor alone. So the pressures are tremendous. We appreciate you all thinking about the allocation of funds for Jackson. We have put operational plans in place to assist us with addressing some of the increases in operational costs. We've come up with a plan to ultimately address about 50% of the increase in our costs that we have experienced now compared to pre-pandemic. And we have operationalized that to the point that, you know, ultimately we're not waiting around, but it has made us put things on hold. Capital investments, our infrastructure is getting older and older every day, and ultimately we're just continuing to work to keep our organization afloat.
Ben, I'm gonna cut you off. I apologize again, but I want to make sure we have a little time for
Sure.
questions. Is there any other hospitals in this region besides Baptist and Jackson? There's no other hospitals, right? Not in the county, okay.
Right.
And y'all take everybody, right? I mean, y'all can't turn anybody down, like a private business normally. You can turn people down if you don't want to, y'all have no option on that.
Yeah, and unfortunately, what we've experienced after the pandemic is, you know, rural healthcare in Alabama is a real challenge. So as they struggle, more and more of those patients will come to our area for more acute needs. And then post-pandemic, the amount of financial distress, mental health issues, and then just deterioration of the social network, we are dealing with more complex patients without the ability to pay than we ever have before.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I'm not a question so much as just a statement. I understand that the provision and maintenance of quality health care to citizens across this country is a huge, gigantic challenge, and even greater in the state of Alabama. And I guess my question is this. I mean, with as powerful as the Alabama Hospital Association is, and these two hospitals and other hospitals in this state that are suffering the way they are, I mean, what is it going to take to put the proper amount of pressure on those responsible for legislating in this state to get Medicaid expanded and to get you reimbursed at a rate that can keep you viable and can and make sure that you're able to provide a consistent, quality health care for the citizens of Alabama? What are there any efforts? Are the hospitals together on this with the hospital association to go down there and tell these people what your plight is and what the plight is of people in the state of Alabama, and the relief that we would get? My understanding is that it would be a great help. I mean, I talked to the CEO at Jackson, and it would be a great help. I know that. I'm sure Baptist the same way. But it's a statement more than anything else. But you know.
Yeah, I'll give a little bit of my perspective from a financial seat. And I talked with a colleague who put it best, and I think the hospital industry hasn't got the attention of our legislators yet, because we have been operating in such a challenging environment for years that we've just rolled up our sleeves and done everything we could to make sure we kept doors open. To ultimately pass on federal funding that's available for hospitals that would really benefit the state of Alabama is sometimes, from the financial seat, maddening. But I think, unfortunately, what's going to happen or have to happen to get people's attention is the fact that some hospitals will close. I don't think that's news to anybody here. I don't think that's news to our legislators. The Alabama Hospital Association has been publishing those numbers for years. You know, there are efforts to close the coverage gap for those patients that don't have the ability to pay. That would be tremendous for Alabama hospitals to get an additional source of funding. But as the healthcare ecosystem becomes strained across our area, with more and more rural hospitals struggling, you know, Alabama has now surpassed Mississippi for the worst healthcare outcomes in the nation. It's just, when your mission is to serve patients in the community, it is just absolutely maddening when you hear reports of that going on in the state. Because who suffers? The patient suffers, the community suffers. And, it seems like the ability to get more people enrolled in insurance, whether that's through Medicaid or whatever, has just not happened, but that's what needs to happen, additional funding, to ultimately make us more competitive. Because you have to remember also that now, and it's one thing that I stay awake at night thinking about, we're competing for staff now that can work in other states, that can work remotely in other states. When you are a low reimbursed provider, a low reimbursement state, it is going to be very difficult to compete against that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
ordinarily, this commission is not in a position to help the local healthcare providers. This is an extraordinary situation where we have the funds and we're able to do it. We're spending it on everything else. Healthcare is one of the most important items and issues facing us, aside from crime and those type of things. But healthcare is a huge issue, and I'm fully supportive of doing what we can at this time with the funds that we have to support the two major healthcare providers in this city, in this county, in this region.
That'll be next agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
before we move on, I also, and I certainly appreciate the comments that my fellow Commissioner, Mr. Harris, has made. Healthcare is certainly one of the most important issues, and we are funding some other things, but there are some social determinants of health as well that we need to be aware of, like, housing, education, transportation, a number of things. So even though healthcare is at the top, there are some other things that are not being done here with the monies that would help to impact health outcomes in a positive way. So I thought I would add that. Also, I was wondering if you had a proposal for what Jackson plans to do with the money if it's appropriated.
Yeah, so.
You don't have to spend any time on that. I was just wondering if you had a proposal.
Yeah, we do.
Thank you. You're going to share it with us?
Yeah.
Please do, yeah. So that'll be next agenda. Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate your time.
And I'll tell you, I've got a different opinion about Medicaid because I've experienced it with my mother. Until you experience it, you really don't realize the importance until you experience firsthand.
I know we're short on time, so I'll be brief, and also because I need to save every little bit of my voice that I have. The MOU with Montgomery Water and Sewer, I know that's up for consideration. I just wanted you all to know that we have started working on a subrecipient agreement with Montgomery Water and Sewer. Actually got their comments from their attorney last night. So our team will review that, and then we will get it to Mr. Armistead and the city attorney. We're working to move quickly on that. Also this morning provided Mr. Armistead a draft of the agreement with CarkDeck. There's a couple of things that I'd like to add to that exhibit, specifically a timeline for those approval processes and a budget. We will have that ready before the next meeting. I would like to just email that to you all so you can see it ahead of that meeting, if that's okay. The only change on this document from what you should have received, I think on Friday, is an increase in the traditional sewer allocation. I think the document you received on Friday had 15.7 million. This one has 17 million on there. The reason for that is because of this MOU, the city and the county are now eligible to receive a reimbursement grant from ADEM in the amount of around $3.125 million. To get that, the city and county will have to put that money up first and then get reimbursed on the back end. So we added some additional funds to that. Commissioner Harris, you're frowning. Do I need to restate that? Did it make sense what I said?
Well, go ahead.
Okay, just making sure we're clear. So I just wanted to point that out.
So Terry, on that, the 3.1 million would come out of our
That's correct. It's
general fund or our, from the
out of the
county.
ARPA funds,
It
correct.
would come out of the ARPA, but we would get reimbursed back to the county, right, for that money?
So that the reimbursement will actually go to Montgomery Water and Sewer because they're technically the applicant, but in the agreement that we're working on, we will make it clear that they have to give that reimbursement back to the city and county.
Okay.
So yes, it will come back to you all. The compliance on these items they're all moving and are, I would say, 90% done. You've heard from the hospitals. We've had similar conversations with domestic violence. Those contracts are drafted. We just have to add the details of that expenditure and those reporting requirements. And as you know, unlike your traditional public purpose allocations, every recipient of ARPA funds has to report penny by penny on how they're spending that, so we want to make sure that that's clear. So as you see, we are at a place where 87.55% of these funds are obligated, which leaves about $10.6 million remaining between the city and the county. We have some thoughts on how you might efficiently move forward with that we'd like to discuss with you all at a later date, but we really want to get this first $75 million moved and in the community, and then figure out, how you all would like to direct us on the remaining.
So Terry, all these are up to, right?
Yes.
Oh, so it could be more money left besides.
That's
10,
correct.
because- But the
Some, but it-
maximum liability is this.
That's correct.
That's maximum, okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Just want to thank you for the work that you all are doing on this, even though it's been very, I guess, frustrating, for lack of a better word, because of just the length of time it's taken, 2 years plus, to start allocating to those people who have been disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. Water and sewer, very important. Those people on septic tanks not working adequate, they're breathing spores, bacteria, et cetera, These are the folks that are going to show up at Jackson and Baptist Hospital. And so we're talking about social determinants of health and how we need to address those. And I'm grateful that I know we have a long way to go with this sewer thing, but at least it seems that we're making some progress, as slow as it may be. I don't know if you're going to talk about this proposal for the United Way.
That's coming up.
Okay.
I'm not done with this.
Can I add a comment about the United Way? And this is
Let's do this one
I'm
first.
not done with this.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
My concern is the MOU between the city, county, water board on this thing. I don't know that it's clear what it is, our responsibility is going to be. It's pretty clear that we're going to build it, or we're going to pay for it being built. The water company is going to build it, or see to it being built, and but who's going to keep it maintained?
So
Who's going to do all that? I don't want to commit the county to have anything to do with waterworks in the city of Montgomery.
I agree 100%. So the system will be accepted into Montgomery Water and Sewers infrastructure, and then they will maintain it. Let me add this.
Is that I didn't see that.
So this MOU is, the only purpose of that MOU is to demonstrate to ADM that the city and county and Montgomery Water and Sewer are working collaboratively. That's the only way we could receive those funds.
I'm all right with that.
The second phase is a subrecipient agreement that right now is about 25 pages that will lay out all of those details that you're talking about. So this MOU is not the agreement that is the guiding document for this infrastructure project. There is a separate subrecipient agreement that will spell out all of those details that we are working with the attorneys for Montgomery Water and Sewer to finalize.
And that's my concern. What's that agreement going to be? What is it going to be? We're agreeing to do this on the front end, and then on the back end, and the agreement you're talking about, it might have some other kind of. You understand what my concern is? This is just an open, opportunity to get us involved in something that we don't want to be involved in, number one. All we want to do is spend the money.
Yes. Well, the MOU is non-binding. It's a demonstration to ADM that ADM required this MOU in order for us to be eligible to receive this grant. So, but it is non-binding. The binding agreement is the subrecipient agreement that myself and Susan and our legal team and your county attorney and the city attorney will all be working on and reviewing and making sure that it protects the interests of the city and the county. And so we're in those negotiations right now. Again, we just got the first comments on our draft from Montgomery Water attorneys last night. So those are in negotiation. And if we encounter any problems, I mean, that will be communicated to you all. So,
Well, I hope so, because the MOU is a meeting of the minds of the parties, all right? So whatever you negotiate separately, secondly, this is what you are agreeing on now between the two of you. So, I mean, I'm a lawyer. I understand that part.
yeah.
So let's just make sure you know that we don't want any other responsibilities past putting ARPA money, not ARPA money, into the waterworks for the city of Montgomery.
Understood.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask Michael Armstead, our county attorney, to address a little bit, real quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's my understanding, and it's going to be my intent to make sure that the responsibility for the maintenance and the contract will fall on the waterworks. So when we get to that agreement, that will be my number one priority, to make sure that our legal responsibilities are taken care of and that we don't put anything else on the county commission that's not supposed to be there. So
Okay,
that's, I am fully aware of that. I've talked with Terry about it, and yes, I will have that on the forefront.
And make sure there's some kind of safeguards in there to make sure that they don't overspend in the process. I mean, there's gonna be them who pick the contractors and the subs and all that.
Yes, sir.
And spend the money and the lawyers and all that stuff. And that's a bill. We wanna make sure that we have some kind of control over them not getting out of hand with that, because that's, you understand?
Understood.
I don't have a whole lot of confidence in the waterworks.
So that'll be next agenda. Moving along.
United Way. I want to be frank, and I've been out for the last few weeks. Of course, if this commission wants to consider the United Way resolution, you should do that. But we have not received a directive from you to give an allocation to United Way. The city has given us that directive. We received that directive from the dais at the request of City Councilor Glenn Pruitt, which is why the city is receiving it. So in my opinion, the United Way allocation from the county is not something that really should be on the agenda at this point, because we have not formally received that request. And I talked to Susan, but she's out of town before she left, and so I think that may have been an oversight. Now, certainly you have it, and if that's something you want to proceed with, you can, but again, you have not given us a directive in a public meeting or in a Montgomery Thrive meeting to make an allocation to United Way. The city has done that from the dais at the request of one city councilor only.
Yeah, and I believe Councilman Pruitt, I think I was at the meeting, I think this money's going to Flatwood to replace trailers,
That was the
private trailers.
Well, no, it cannot go to replace trailers. But what we have told United Way in the compliance review process is it can go to address other public health issues or other expenditures that align with the parameters of ARPA. And if they choose to reallocate money and help Flatwood and buy trailers for folks, then they are welcome to do that. But we cannot use public money to purchase trailers for a handful of people. That violates the Alabama
We've had other
Constitution.
groups, like United Way, great groups here that has approached us for help too. So that will not be next agenda. We didn't need to hold up on that one, you think? Okay. What's your-
Mr.
Yes,
Chairman,
sir.
I just want to make a comment if I may, please.
Yeah.
I want to be sure, because when the representative from United Way came down, it was all about the Flatwood community and what they had planned to do. We were on a call, you, myself, Susan, Glenn Pruitt, and the representative from United Way. I had some concerns that you've just addressed as to whether or not you can direct money to a particular neighborhood. I love Flatwoods. I represent them. I want everything that's coming to them. I want it to be done in a speedy manner. However, I do not want them to be manipulated or another organization to be served based upon the heartaches and the pain that these people have suffered. And I didn't see anything in that resolution that mentioned Flatwood, and I didn't expect to. But I don't want anybody to come down here and try to get money for their organization based upon the pain that those people have suffered in Flatwoods. Unless it say go to Flatwoods, I'm certainly opposed to it, and I don't really appreciate that what appears to be a manipulative process based upon the pain and suffering of the people in the Flatwood community.
Understood. I mean, the truth is, you know, I understand the desire to purchase trailers and replace homes. By Constitution, you can't do that with these funds. And so the only way to get the resources to them is, you know, if they have other eligible expenditures, which they do. You know, what we've talked about is potentially doing, having some language in the contract, or having them, you know, attest to the fact through affidavit that they would spend any overages as a result of receiving this allocation in the Flatwood community. So we're talking about ways that we could potentially guarantee that by receiving help from the county, it would in turn benefit the Flatwood community. But the proposal that was given to us to assist Flatwood is just not something that can be done by law.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I just think, if the city want to do it, let them do it. I don't think that this is something that we even want to take the chance on. I think it's a dangerous precedent to set. I mean, these tornadoes hit all the time everywhere. You know, one hit in my district, or in Doug's district, and we didn't go in there and rebuild that house. You can't set a precedent of going in, taking care of things like this, when the next one come about, and are you going to be able to do it then? I just think it's a dangerous precedent. I support the people of Flatwood, and I did so by contributing from my discretionary fund. I did what I could to the United Way because they were the organization that was out front helping. I did that, and that's my suggestion for this commission. If we want to help like that. But I think it's a dangerous precedent that the city is setting, and I don't know that we want to be a part of it.
Yeah, you can help personally too. I did that too. So that, we'll just table that for now, and I think that's all for you, Terry, right?
Thank you.
Florence, we got two quick ones.
All right, there is one more resolution that you all
Oh,
can,
did I miss one?
the
I missed 11, I'm sorry.
Domestic Violence Child Abuse Consortium. That's the Family Sunshine Center, Child Protect, and One Place.
Compliance is virtually complete on this. I can email everyone a summary of how those organizations would expend those funds. I can get that to you today. That will be, even though they have submitted as a consortium, that will actually be 3 separate contractual agreements with each organization because they each have their own EIN.
So we'll get that today.
I will email it to you.
Plenty of time to
Yes.
see it before next meeting.
Absolutely.
So we can put it on next agenda and then
Believe so.
decide then, okay. Board of Equalization.
And we've got 2 more visitors to hear from.
Oh, my goodness, okay.
If you want to have them after the formal session.
Let's
or-
just finish, let's go ahead and get them up here now.
Next will be Felicia Petway with Legal Services.
Good morning. My name's Guy Lesko. I'm the Executive Director of Legal Service Alabama. Thank you for having us here today. I know you're short on time, but I brought along our team to talk about the challenge we're facing here in Montgomery County in providing legal assistance on air property. That's an issue that covers every district of the county. And what I'd like to do, rather than take a lot of time explaining the history of legal services, is to bring 2 people who have been aggressively pursuing that here in Montgomery County, Deb Neal, and with her today is Valinda Williams, who is our project attorney coordinating air property, and also Felicia Petway, the Director of Development, and specifically, how can Montgomery County help us meet the challenge? We have very limited resources. We have 1 million eligible clients in the state, and we need your help if we're going to address air property issues in Montgomery County. So Deb Neal, could you share with the commission what you've been doing?
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Deborah Neal, and I have been working with Legal Services Alabama other nonprofit
Will
organizations.
you put that mic closer to you so they can?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now?
Well, I want to make sure the people listening
Okay.
on the internet can.
Thank you. First of all, it's an honor to be here to speak to you this morning, and I have been assisting nonprofits, elected officials, local officials, county commissioners, city council members, churches, nonprofit organizations, in collaboration with Legal Services Alabama, hosting air property and legal clinics, law clinics around the area. We've had about 5 such clinics. I got started doing this when I went on a tour of Montgomery County with an elected official, and I saw numerous boarded up homes, vacant lots, in areas that reminded me of third world countries, quite frankly. My research indicated that a lot of these properties are heirs property. That means multiple owners without clear titles. People who have those types of properties cannot get any type of assistance for emergency home repairs, winterization, home equity loans, disaster relief, and we all have experienced that with tornadoes and other disasters here in Montgomery. We've had hundreds of people participate and attend these clinics. Judge Love has been a regular speaker talking about probate processes and how to help prevent heirs property. We have 10 to 12 lawyers come out on a Saturday and assist people preparing legal documents on the premises, such as wills, healthcare directors, and durable powers of attorneys. So we help identify what heirs property is, how to prevent it, and provide legal assistance at no cost. If a person, even a middle-aged or, a middle-income person had to go to a firm to get this type of assistance, it can run up to thousands of dollars. And we charge no one for this assistance. And so it's an ongoing effort. I have had numerous organizations and individuals come to me and ask me, can we continue to do this and host these either at their churches or trusted spaces? And so I appreciate your consideration of this request and thank you for your support. And we welcome any questions.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I know that we're pressed for time, but this process is so important for the people. I just want to thank Ms. Neal. I've worked with her on one of the first air property symposium, and was very well attended, over 100 people on a very cold Saturday morning. It's very important work, and I wish we had time for me to tell you some of the stories about people who almost lost property and so forth because they just didn't know what to do, and some legal issues regarding, the deeds and the title and so forth. There was one lady who was in her home, and it was sold on tax sale. She was living there. She was had some chronic illnesses and so forth, then just didn't have the energy or strength to attend to her business. She was living in the house. The house was sold at a tax sale while she was living there. They kept the house for 3 years, which is the legal time frame. They sent her a letter the very next day to say that you can either buy this house back for X number of dollars or rent it from us. Now, how devastating could that be? You own the house, you're living there, and she had some responsibility, of course, to make sure that her tax was paid, but she had some health issues as well. And so legal services came in, and they were able to get her house back, after a series of legal proceedings. And so many situations where legal services come in. I certainly think that even with the critical home repair program, I think legal service and their property and all the things that they do is going to be critical to making sure that that program functions properly. So hopefully this commission will see fit to maybe include them in the opera funding. I think with all the critical and important work they do, that they ought to be considered in the budget, but that's perhaps a discussion for a later date. So I will let you all go ahead and finish, but thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that.
Do you assist individuals regardless of their income?
Legal services as a threshold, you must be a low-income individual.
Okay.
However, between that and our elderly grant that we have, we're able to broaden our representation for many of our clients, and so that gives us a larger pool of individuals to work with. However, there's an existing proposal with Thrive that would allow us to assist a broader group of individuals if it's accepted. We submitted a proposal in early 22, I want to say the February time frame for Thrive, with the intent to provide representation to clients throughout the Montgomery County city area, because we knew this was a joint project. So that could be addressed in that area when you're talking about as Commissioner Sankey said, the housing, the public housing issues that you guys are currently working on, as well as with water and sewage. Most of these individuals, although people say we don't turn people away because of ownership, they do. And so we can address those home ownership issues where people have not followed through with the appropriate deeds, whether it's a will, a deed, a power of attorney, all of those will address those issues. So I'm kind of out of order, but Belinda's going to close this out because she's the attorney that provides our air property assistance and pull those 10 to 12 attorneys in. We have been providing this service free, but of course, usually it's on Saturdays. We're asking for a team of people, and the demand has been larger in Montgomery than any other area, and we're looking for financial assistance to continue this process. I know that I'm looking at the calendar. There are a couple of outreaches. We're looking at one with Commissioner Ziegler, and I'm going to forget your last name, but I remember that part of it. But I know that there are other commissioners, as well as in the city, that have asked us to bring this same concept to their areas, and we're willing to do it. But we're hoping that you can support this initiative in addition to those who, as you're beginning your home repair, that will also need ownership issues and clear titles. So Belinda, if you'll tell a little bit about what we do.
Thank you. I'm Belinda Jerome Williams, Coordinating Project Attorney for the Heirs Property Unit with Legal Services Alabama. Thank you all for having us. I just want to underscore what my colleagues have said. When we're talking about heirs property, we are talking about property that passes from one generation to another without an individual having made a last will and testament or some sort of legal instrument to pass clear, secure, unencumbered title to someone else or to something else. And the issue with heirs property that we've experienced here in Montgomery is that a lot of people don't know that they have it. And they don't know that with heirs property, we have that fractional interest that breaks and breaks and breaks as more people get married, as more people pass away, as we have more heirs born into the family. A clear example of an heirs property issue would be a situation where we have a gentleman by the name of James McDonald who owns 4 acres of land and he has 4 kids. He dies without a last will and testament, doesn't have a deed in place that's transferring the property to someone else, hasn't set up an LLC or any type of other entity, hasn't set up a trust to make sure that property clearly passes from one generation to the next. And the laws of intestate succession in our state control what happens to that property, where it goes. A simple case would be his 4 kids would just simply each have a 25% interest in that property. However, that's not typically your heirs property case, and it's certainly not what we see here in Montgomery and not at Legal Services Alabama. What we typically see is the 4 acres of land. Mr. McDonald has passed away without a last will and testament, nothing put in place to transfer that property, and we have 2 of the 4 kids who have passed away. They may have 5 to 10 kids. Some of those kids have passed away, and so as you can see, we have title breaking and breaking and breaking and breaking as we go down the line. The issue with our clients is they don't have the capital resource, they don't have the financial assets, they don't have the legal knowledge, they don't have the stamina to get through the labyrinth of these heirs property issues. And so as Legal Services Alabama, and why we need your support is we want to continue clearing title for these individuals. We want to increase awareness. Since April of this year, we have increased awareness of over 500 folks throughout the area. We've also received hundreds of intakes and case consultations, and so we know there is a need here. We want to help people reclaim property, retain wealth. We want to help them to build a legacy to leave to their family instead of leaving a burden. And we're asking your help to help us continue with that process. And we'll take additional questions as needed.
Any other questions?
I just want to make a statement. The scenario that you described, I don't know how much that property is worth, but the clear title on that property, you're over $100,000. You know that?
Yes.
So I mean, that's what you're doing? You're doing that kind of work?
Yes.
And how many people have you helped? I mean, that's it's time intensive, it's expensive, on average, annually. How many people you help with, you're able to get that kind of thing, clear title?
Clear title for different families mean different things. For some people, we're able to just track down errors. So some people were able to clear title completely. So on average, we're doing at least 50 clear titles where we are doing extended representation. We're in court. We're doing title searching. We're tracking down errors. We're helping heirs come to an agreement, consolidate ownership in at least one owner. But for every 50 cases we've done, we've had hundreds of case consultations, and we've helped other people in other ways. The issue with heirs property doesn't just stop with clearing title. We then move to estate succession planning, where we are creating those wills, we're creating the powers of attorneys and anything else, testamentary trust to pass property.
I understand that part, but I'm talking about what concerns this commission. What concerns this commission is getting that property on the tax roll and getting somebody paying the taxes.
Yes,
So that's what we're gonna help you with.
yes.
This other stuff, writing wills and all that, I mean, you have to pay for that to get your will, get a will, or there are plenty of places to get a free will. The kind of work you're talking about doing is expensive work and it's hard work, you
Yes.
know. I don't do it, quite frankly. I don't know if Michael ever done it, but it's not something I want to do. How much are you asking for?
Well, we put in a proposal with Thrive, and our proposal is all over the place. We've gone from, I think we asked for some for construction because we were also looking at our building renovation, but we also looked at legal representation broadly for other services, but then we've narrowed it down anywhere from 200,000 to 500,000. We've asked for that for just the air property. So it's a broad range because we're wanting to put some attorneys to make availability to assist with the representation, but also to assist with these clinics that we're talking about. Commissioner Sankey can attest to the fact that we've had huge numbers of attorneys. A team of attorneys have to come in, and when we do these clinics, each one of them takes several cases and provide that representation.
So you have a proposal based on the services,
Yes.
for the services. Can we get a copy? Can we all get a chance
Yeah,
to
we
see
get
that?
it, okay. All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. You want to get Sharice up here real quick?
Good morning. Just real quickly, Governor Ivey stood up the Alabama
your
STEM
name and
Council.
title, please.
Sorry, Sharice Stokes, Executive Director for Tech MGM. Governor Ivey stood up the Alabama STEM Council back in 2020. Just this year, we had an opportunity to actually be recognized nationally as Alabama having an innovation STEM ecosystem. Part of that was to stand up regional ecosystems. We are launching 2 of those, one in North Alabama, and the second is for I-85, Montgomery, Tuskegee, and Auburn. Tech MGM is the anchor organization for the I-85 regional ecosystem, and while we're launching that, we'd like to have a STEM Fest on the Saturday, 2nd of September. That will be on the tail end of our huge AFITC, our IT conference, and right in the middle of HBCU Classic Weekend. So that STEM Fest will actually cater to 1,000 K through 12 students that we'll have at Crampton Bowl. There'll be 80+ stations for them to do hands-on demonstrations, everything from drones to electric vehicles to medical professionals, even having some things on NASA and aerodynamics. We've already worked with Boeing, Coke, and a number of other sponsors for that event, and we'd love for the county to sponsor along with us. The city has pledged $10,000. Boeing has also pledged as well, and so we're working on a few more, but we would like to get at least support from the county. I've asked Quincy Minor to also join me. Quincy and a number of other small businesses that are here in Montgomery are joining us and supporting that event. They will be on site for the event, and we will also recruit from our local colleges for volunteers for that event. But it's a great way to expose our youth to STEM areas so that we can now have a number of those individuals going into those career disciplines. Any questions?
What's your budget?
So the total dollar amount is $75,000 for that event.
And how much do you have committed so far?
And so we have about 35 committed so far.
Who are you representing again?
Tech MGM.
Okay.
Real brief, Quincy, please. You want to let Quincy say something, didn't you?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Quincy Minor, CEO of CAM Technologies. I think this is a very beneficial opportunity for the city because me being a small business in technology in the city of Montgomery, it's very important that we guide and lead our youth so we can have future leaders and future engineers and future networking people from our community to support our local businesses in the future, because the children are our future, and too many of our youth are going to the wrong direction, and we don't have enough people to support our employment opportunities in the current city.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend that the commission give $5,000 to this endeavor from our collective.
We can't do 10?
Well, I was going to recommend doing 5, and then I was going to give another 5 out of my personal
I'll
funds.
split that 5 with you.
Okay, so that will be, I mean,
That's fine.
if the commission agrees, that would get you a total of $10,000.
Thank you.
So that's $2,500 each from myself and Commissioner Moore Ziegler, from my designated,
My designated also.
both of our designateds, $2,500, and then $5,000 from our collective designated.
And the recipient would be?
It'll go to Montgomery Tech Lab.
And can I just say, Mr. Minor, and I'm gonna put you on the spot, when you went to Whitewater and you saw the wonderful technology that was done by his company, we were able to work with his and make sure that minority company did the technology for Whitewater.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sharice, thank you for all you continue to do. Really appreciate your work.
Florence, let's do number 13, and then number 14, we're going to delay that 1 week since Sheriff Cunningham is not here. So we'll talk about 14 next week. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do 13 real quick.
All right, 13, at the last meeting, you all wanted to submit Mr. Dixon's name again, and you were going to consider 2 other nominees. I asked Clay Henley to check with the state. It's only necessary that 1 name be submitted if you don't have additional names. In the event he resigned or something, we'd have to address that issue then, but
Any
I've
additional,
talked to him, he's not gonna resign.
any additional names, though, anybody have? If not, we'll move forward next agenda with Mr. Dixon. So that is all for
Is that all of
information.
them? Did we get everything?
I think so. So we're going, it's 10:22, let's try to get back in here by 10:26, that's 3.5 minutes, and we'll start the formal session, so. Be quick.